By the time winter comes, we're pretty much drained, our pockets, right? We just bought a bunch of gifts for the Christmas and all that. I said for the Christmas. Tell me you don't celebrate Christmas without telling me you don't celebrate the Christmas. Happy holidays and all that good stuff, but right now you're probably hurting. And if you're not hurting, then you should still watch this video because affordable fragrances are cool. So these are some of the best affordable winter fragrances. Starting things off with Mercedes-Benz Select Night. Look, it's not a joke, seriously. I thought it was at first, like really Mercedes-Benz. What? What are you gonna sell me an AMG next? No, I promise. This is amazing. Some of the notes of this include lavender, cardamom, orange flower, and then vanilla and sandalwood, but this is much sexier than just what that sounds like. Even sexier than the cardamom, because cardamom sounds sexy. This reminds me a lot of like Tom Ford's Noir Extreme. And when I was smelling it, I was like, wow, this is insane. So it doesn't have that same coolfy note, obviously, and it's not, I don't think it's like even inspired by it, but I don't really know, but it smells significantly different than that. And one of the biggest things is that the orange flower. So you guys, orange blossom, at least in my experience, has been one of my most complimented notes by women. It doesn't necessarily mean it's my favorite, but it's absolutely there. There's this white floral, orange citrus style undertone to what seems like this sexy vanillic and spiced fragrance that, although not really the most unusual, it's different. Different from even Tom Ford's Noir Extreme. For whatever it's worth, it's in that family of fragrances, and that speaks volumes for the way that it's going to smell for the price point. And not only that, the quality of this one's actually pretty damn good. Check the links down in the description for the lowest prices for even these fragrances, because like, I mean, even for me, if it wasn't for discounters, where the hell would I buy this? I'm not gonna go to the Mercedes-Benz dealership to buy a fragrance. I mean, I don't know if you would, but that would just be kind of weird. Okay, I'm here to buy the fragrance. Please, kids, don't go line up at the Mercedes. No, but they have some good fragrances, and you're gonna find out very soon the next one. So Mercedes-Benz Night, warm, spicy, woody, sexy. It also lasts at least 8 hours, and I would spray this on during the winter time, but especially the best for winter dates, which is a whole nother video I'm gonna be making for different selections, but this will work even during the day. Excellent fragrance. I wouldn't spray it more than about 8 times, and just, you're set. Be on your way. You're set, be on your way. So the next fragrance, which is Mercedes-Benz Private. Yes, a tester, didn't come with a cap. It's still 100% real. It's got cypress, labdanum, some cedarwood, etc. And what this really reminds me of is this very woodsy, patchouli-based fragrance, kind of reminding me of like uncle vibes. So if you're an unk out there, this is everything you should be wearing. Spiced, aromatic, and woody. This also puts me in the same vein as something like Helfetti, Penhaligon's Helfetti. Very expensive scent profile. Not just this one, but the other one, and you'll see another one, which honestly, it's jaw-dropping. They really are that good, I promise you, and I swear to God, this is not sponsored by Mercedes-Benz, although it might seem like it after the next fragrance because it's also a Mercedes-Benz, but trust me, these have been slept on for a long time. If you like Penhaligon's Helfetti, you know that cedarwood style DNA, that's also ambery, maybe even slightly leathery, you're gonna love this one. On initial impression, I didn't really draw the resemblance right away, but shortly after it started drying down a little bit, I could see its relationship to Chopard's Oud Noir, and then later on Penhaligon's Helfetti. In terms of its performance, this will also last the entire freaking day, and for how many sprays, I'd spray this anywhere from, I would say 5, honestly, 5 to 12 sprays. The labdanum is relatively thick. It does recreate the whole leather accord and the ambery vibe to it, so any more than that, it might come off a little bit too thick and too camphorous, if you will. If you know anybody that enjoys those Penhaligon scents, this is gonna be a great one as well. Or if you're looking to gift someone who likes more earthy but refined fragrances, this is exactly that. Before we talk about this one, just listen to the notes. Wine, cinnamon, davana, sexy cardamom, plum, cacao, amber, cedarwood, and patchouli. There is not a single note in here that I don't freaking love, except for red wine, because I don't drink. Another one, it's Mercedes-Benz, what is it, Sign Your Power, and it looks like the front end of a Mercedes, basically. I mean, the bottle design is hideous, and so is the atomizer, but this is a fantastic scent that uses a jammy ass plum, a lot of cinnamon spice, and a boozy rum. This reminds me of Side Effect, a more jammier, a more fruitier, and a more ambery, and a more intense version of something like Side Effect. By no means do I think that this is inspired by it, but it's absolutely in that similar direction. More jammier, more fruitier, and all those other things. So in a sense, this cheapie might actually be better for some people. So I know a lot of people don't really like the level of cumin or the level of cinnamon spice that's found in Side Effect. And for those of you out there that feel that way, this is gonna be better. If you don't like that spice, Sign Your Power is outstanding. This, I give this a 10. Honest to God, you guys, it's a 10 out of 10. Sign Your Power is a freaking 10 out of 10, but you have to be careful not to wear it in anything other than the winter time because it does have a pretty thick and syrupy style of plum that if you wear it during the summertime, it can really kill the scent profile. I mean, normally speaking, I would say, you know, you can wear whatever you want, whenever you want, just spray it a little bit less. But this is one of the cases where I would personally say, you know, maybe just keep this one for cooler weather. With that being said, I wouldn't spray this more than 8 times during the winter time because of the fact that it comes off jammy. And lastly, the performance for this is all freaking day and it projects solidly. Wear this to a date and prepare to fling your boxers, fling her panties. But if she's anything like me, then she's not wearing any because we commando, and that's pretty much it. On to the next fragrance, Mont Blanc's Legend Night. I love this. It is synthetic. It does come off a little bit harsh sometimes, but it's ambery. It's got apple, vanilla, very crisp and attention grabbing. A lot of women have complimented me while rocking this one. Performance for this, if you spray it like I do, anywhere from 6 to 14 sprays, but when you do get up there, the synthetic vibe gets a little bit too much and even borderline metallic. With that being said, you'll get over 8 hours with that many sprays. Attention grabbing, compliment worthy, and great for the winter time. Now, if you want something a little bit more sophisticated, mellow, woody, and camphorous, go for Versace Oud Noir. This is a woods and oud fragrance that also, I believe, has some cardamom spice, a little bit of spice in here, and what seems like a musky overtone. That's the whole camphorous reference. Reminds me a lot of Tom Ford's Oud Wood. It's basically the designer take on that. That's also affordable. This will last the entire day. I've gotten up to 10 hours and I spray this anywhere from, I would say, 5 to about 10, 12 times max, just because of the fact that if you spray it more than that, that musky vibe can be overdone and smell like mothballs, basically. With that being said, you can find this for 65 bucks on discounters, and it's fan-freaking-tastic. Next one up is called Pour un Homme de Caron le Soir. This is a hidden gem, man. I discovered this one, I think, about 6 months ago. One of you out there, you suggested this to me, and I appreciate you and I love you for that because this happens to be one of my favorite lavender-based fragrances to date. It's lavender and iris, the whole iris orris that you find in DHI. Combine that with lavender, you end up with something like this. Performance for this one, I get a good 6 to 8 hours tops. It smells like fabric softener vibes, that whole lavender comforting aromatic, slightly tea-like with fabric softener. So damn good. And I would wear this. I actually did signature scent this in every season but the summertime, although I could have, it worked. And whenever I wore this one, I sprayed it anywhere from 6 to 14 times, but I found that the best range was anywhere from 8 to 12 sprays. Do make sure that you're spraying it on in different places, like your clothing, etc., because if you overdo this one in one location, it can end up being a little bit too thick, coming from that frothy like or shaving cream style of lavender. Next one's pretty sexy and also pretty cheap. It's Banana Republic's Dark Cherry and Amber, and it's as simple as that. That's what it smells like to me. It's like this cherry hard candy that basically just dries down in some ambers. The recreation of the whole amber accord, generally speaking, is used from oils of like olibanum, frankincense, some resins, along with maybe some labdanum, etc., to help recreate that. So it starts off like a hard candied cherry with some mildly balsamic undertones that gets warm and rich as it starts to dry down. It's really good for the price. You do have to overspray this one if you're going to wear it. I would suggest at least 6 sprays, no less than that, up to about 15 sprays, at least for me. Neeb is crazy. Spraying. Now, I'm not telling you to spray it to 15 times, but personally, I've never smelled it if I've ever sprayed it less than the lower range. So generally speaking, whenever I say 6 to 14 times, the most that I would tolerate is the 14, and the least that I would spray just to be able to smell myself would be the 6. And somewhere in between has been the sweet spot for me. Similar to one of the other ones we mentioned here on this list, but with its own differences, is called Trussardi's The Paintings of Palazzo Reale. This is a fragrance I found on Jomo Shop for around $75 to $85, so it's not the cheapest fragrance in the world, but it's still not as expensive as a lot of other niche fragrances. Sure, you could still, I wouldn't necessarily say that this is the most affordable thing in the world. No, by no means is it, but I'm pretty sure you can find it sometimes, if you're lucky, for $65 or less. This is a fragrance that has some of my favorite notes as well, like plum, also dates, there's honey, there's oud, vanilla, olibanum, a lot of notes that are similar to a lot of fragrances that I personally love. So because of that, it's no surprise that it reminds me of some of those fragrances, like Dolce & Gabbana The One Luminous Night, also Side Effect, and that family of fragrance. The one thing and the main difference between this one and some of the other aforementioned ones is that there's not nearly as much spices as some of those other mentioned ones. It does have the note of pepper at the top, but that's pretty much it. As it starts to dry down, you don't get too much of that spice, and kind of detaching it away from some of those other mentioned fragrances. So even more so than the rest, gets less ambery, or sorry, less spicy as it starts to dry down, leaning more into the whole jammy and ambery side of things and vanillic. So the main difference between this one and Sign Your Power is going to be the spice spice, number one, and the vanillic nature. While Sign Your Power does start to dry down into more of a syrupy, jammy style of plum, this one carries on that plummy and fruity nuance, but dries down into more of an ambery vanilla, rather than still focusing more so on those fruity nuances. So it really just depends on what you want to go into. Do you want to go into like this jammy, vanillic style of very dense and sweet, or do you want to go into something that's more vanillic with some fruity nuances and like a breath of that plum and the dates? That's what I would say this one is. Performance for this lasts pretty much the entire day, and for the winter time I would not recommend spraying this more than about 14 times, anywhere from 5 to 14 times. So for me personally, my sweet spot is about 8 to 10 sprays with this one specifically. Wintertime dates, wintertime during the day, any day during the wintertime, like many of these fragrances will work just fine. Actually, more than just fine. These are some of the best affordable winter fragrances, no joke. Up until recently, there weren't that many cheap or affordable coffee fragrances until Halloween Man X, one that I slept on for quite some time. It's got cardamom, some citrus, and a broken atomizer with coffee, whiskey, incense, and tonka bean. This is a really damn good coffee fragrance, and it's as simple as that. It doesn't go cappuccino, it doesn't go sickly sweet, and I appreciate it for exactly that. I like a more naturalistic smelling coffee fragrance, and while this one isn't the most naturalistic in the world, in this realm of affordable fragrances that aren't Middle Eastern, etc., this one has to be one of the best ones, especially for the price, for around $45 or less, almost consistently. Check the links down in the description. It's absolutely one of the must-haves if you like coffee and you like saving money. Performance for this, I've gotten anywhere from 7 to 9 hours. It isn't beast mode, but it's not weak either. During the wintertime, I've sprayed this up to 14 sprays, and it's very easily. It doesn't get cloying, it doesn't get synthetic. It's decent for the price. It hasn't gotten cloying, it hasn't gotten too much or anything overbearing, so I would say a minimum of about 5 sprays up to 14 sprays, and you should be okay. This isn't one that I found to like get cloying or just synthetic as you spray, and for whatever it's worth, that speaks to its quality. So although Jesus del Pozo fragrances aren't really talked about that much, or the most expensive, it doesn't smell cheap. Worthy of mentioning, this one having to be one of the best ones, along with Halloween Man Shop. Last but not least, Altamir by Ted Lapidus. This has been out on the market for a long time. It's a very thick and indolic combination of neroli along with orange flower. Obviously, it's going to be a lot more than that. There's this tonka bean, there's this musk. It's like this, it recreates this woody, musky vibe at the dry down. Generally speaking, you'll get that with tonka bean, let alone adding it with musk. And if there's even more woods and patchouli, which this one has, it emphasizes a lot on that. So a pretty thick and indolic combination of those florals with some citruses coming from pineapple and that whole musky, woody style dry down that's very masculine, but also soft and approachable at the same time. If you think of fragrances that are very successful nowadays, like YSL Myself, specifically Les Parfums, it's a lot thicker, and Gucci Guilty Elixir, this smells like it should be in that family, which goes to show you that things that go out of style or were never in style always have their time. That's kind of how this one worked out. It was one that wasn't in style when it first came out, and now if you smell this one, it's in that category and it smells much more expensive, especially if you compare it to those. It's not going to be for everybody, and neither are those other mentioned fragrances. Myself is, but Les Parfums and Gucci Guilty Elixir is not, because of that thick and rooty nature that this one also has. So it's not for everyone, but if you like that fabric softener vibe that's thick, orange flower, and those indolic, fatty style of florals, then you're gonna like this one as well. Smells much more expensive, and the performance for this one is outstanding for me. I've gotten no less than 8 hours out of this fragrance, and sometimes to the next day on clothing. However, I always spray this at least 6 times, up to 12 times. I wouldn't do more than 12 times because it does get thicker and strong as hell. So that's pretty much it. If you're spraying it less than, I would say 6 times, 5 times, you might get a strong fragrance, but it's not going to last longest. It's really weird with this one. Whenever I've tried to test it with like 3 to 4 sprays, I'll get up to like 6-7 hours, but anything over 6 sprays, it's giving me to the next day, especially on clothing. And you should always be spraying your clothes and your skin. And just for an example as to like how you can get so many sprays, Neeb, well, it's very easy if you're spraying on both clothes and skin. So the objective is to cover both. I would go 1, 2, 3, and then usually I'd go 4, 5, and then 6, 7, 8. And for the most part, 8 is like the sweet spot, but if I still wanted to keep going, that's when I would then go 9 on the top of my hand and 10 on the other top of the hand. And if I'm going crazy, then that's usually when I'm going up to 14, and I would just start doing behind the ears, 10, 11, 12, and then maybe just like 13, and then somewhere else. I have no idea where else to spray it. Yeah, you get the idea. Or maybe you don't. 13, 14. And now I can smell myself. There you have it, the best of the best affordable fragrances for the winter time. My name is Neeb. Thank you for tuning back into AROMATIX, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.